History has seen many tyrants and many ruthless rulers, but some of them committed acts that would today be classified as war crimes, acts that go even beyond that, the kind that make people say, how is something like this even possible? Think of it this way. A man can be cruel, sure, but can he continue taking lives even after his own death? Or could he wipe an entire civilization off the stage of history so completely that we might have never even heard their name today? In this video, we'll look at the most chilling deeds that Genghis Khan, one of the most controversial figures in human history, inflicted on his enemies, his allies, and even members of his own family. What you're about to see isn't just another list of deaths hidden in the dark corners of history. This is evil in its most boundless form. And after watching this video to the end, you will never look at the Mongol Empire the same way again. Although we now know Genghis Khan as a merciless ruler who dominated the stage of history, he wasn't always that way. In fact, as a child, he was considered ordinary and insignificant by those around him. When he was 9, his father Yasuge was poisoned and killed. At that time, the young Temujin, who had not yet become Genghis Khan, was abandoned to die along with his family by their own tribe. They cast them out and left them to survive alone on the Mongolian steppes. Temujin did what he could. He dedicated himself to hunting and finding food so his family could survive. This continued for years. One day when he was 14, he brought home all the fish he had managed to catch after struggling the entire day. But his half-brother Bektar, consumed by days of hunger, secretly ate one of them. When Temujin saw the fish, he immediately noticed one was missing. Bektar's selfishness had been exposed. This drove Temujin onto a rage. He was furious. This wasn't something that could be brushed aside with simple advice or light scolding. The rest of the family was suffering from hunger, and Bektar's behavior wasn't just selfish, it was also a blatant disrespect for Temujin's effort. But there was more to it than that. Temujin, now nearing manhood, wanted to show who held power within the family. Bektar was his mother's favorite, the golden child of the household. To Temujin, he was the one rival that had to be eliminated. Using the fish incident as an excuse, Temujin shot an arrow into his half-brother's back. From that moment on, he became the eldest child and took control of the family with his first murder. After seizing power within his family, Temujin grew rapidly and built an enormous state. Of course, countless events happened in between, but long story short, he became Genghis Khan, the ruler of a vast empire. He conquered a massive region stretching from the Pacific to the Caspian Sea in blood and ruled with brutal strength. Even at age 65, lying on his deathbed, he refused to let go of his authority. He knew he would die soon and gave several instructions for after his death. First, no one was to know where he would be buried. His body would be carried through desolate lands and wild forests, and if any ordinary person or enemy happened to see it during transport, they would be killed on the spot. On the day of his death, everything went exactly as he wished. A group carried his body, while another unit followed to protect them. Some accounts even claim that the flow of a river was redirected so his grave could never be discovered. After finding a suitable place, they buried him. But the loyal men who completed this task were immediately executed by the soldiers guarding them. I'm sure the soldiers weren't happy about this, but the great Khan had said he wanted no witnesses left behind. And what about the soldiers who saw the grave? One account says they took their own lives. Another says another unit killed them. Regardless of which version is true, one fact remains. Genghis Khan continued taking lives even after his death. The Khwarezmian Empire was a large and powerful state in the region Genghis Khan had his eyes on. In 1218, Genghis sent a trade caravan filled with gold and gifts to their capital, Otrar, to establish friendly relations. But Otrar's governor, Inalchuk, who was also the Khwarezmian ruler's uncle, was deeply suspicious and disliked the Mongols. He believed the traders were actually spies. He made a disastrous decision, one that would end both his own life and his entire state. Without questioning them or seeking any proof, he executed all 450 members of the caravan and distributed their goods among his own men. Genghis, who had even killed his own brother over a fish, was not going to ignore this. When he learned what had happened, he went into a rage, gathered his army, and marched immediately. He crushed the Khwarezmians and destroyed their empire. But that's not why this incident is on the list. Governor Inalchuk was captured alive, and he paid for his greed in an unforgettable way. In a scene reminiscent of the one in Game of Thrones where
a crown for a king,
Khal Drogo punishes Viserys Targaryen, a pot of silver was melted and poured over Inalchuk's head, repayment for the silver he had stolen from the caravan. It was pure horror. By 1221, both Otrar and another major city of the Khwarezmians, Samarkand, had already been destroyed. Genghis's son Tolui was tasked with capturing Merv, one of the richest cities of the time. Merv was known not only for its wealth but also for its schools and intellectuals. And they knew what the Mongols did to places they conquered. So they chose not to resist. They announced that they would surrender within a week. Normally, surrender meant the city would be spared from slaughter and looting. But Genghis wasn't after conquest anymore, he wanted revenge. Thus, the Mongol soldiers who entered the city killed everyone. Men, women, children, nobody was spared. Almost no one was left alive in Merv. The entire prosperous city was burned to the ground and remained uninhabited for centuries. In 1211, Genghis Khan targeted China and quickly realized it would not be easy. The Mongols were still newly forming their empire and lacked a proper system. They didn't understand siege warfare. The Jin dynasty's territories were protected by massive walls that the Mongols struggled to breach. As Chinese defenders rained arrows from above, Mongol casualties increased. To reduce losses, Genghis used a brutal tactic. He captured common villagers and prisoners from the surrounding areas and forced them to stand before the Mongol troops as human shields. These innocent people became the first targets of Chinese arrows. Chinese soldiers on the walls were forced to shoot at people who resembled their own families, and their arrow fire weakened. Genghis's tactic worked so well that he continued using it in later campaigns. Determined to destroy the Jin dynasty, Genghis spent years finding better ways to breach walls. He believed the Mongol Empire's true power could only be realized by conquering China's interior. By 1214, the entire region north of the Yellow River had been cleared, and Zhongdu, modern-day Beijing, was under siege. Genghis demanded that the imperial treasury be handed over and the Jin submit. The Chinese emperor agreed, but the moment Genghis turned his back, he fled with his generals to Kaifeng and announced it as their new center. Later, they even returned to Zhongdu. We know Genghis well enough by now to predict his reaction. In 1215, he returned to China, besieged Zhongdu completely, and cut off all food supply. Not even a loaf of bread could enter. Any courier or convoy carrying provisions was eliminated. Months passed. Hunger in Zhongdu became unbearable, People first ate their dead, then each other. Eventually, Genghis breached the walls and stormed the city. Tens of thousands were killed, the city was burned, and the Jin dynasty vanished from history. By late 1220, Genghis Khan sent his commander and son-in-law, Tokuchar, to Nishapur. The city had previously submitted to the Mongols, but reneged when nearby cities began to resist. During the assault, Tokuchar was killed by an archer from Nishapur. The news quickly reached Genghis. His daughter was devastated, and Genghis, already an easily angered man, lost control once again. This time, he sent his son Tolui, the same commander who destroyed Merv. When Tolui entered Nishapur, he massacred everyone. Not only the people, even the animals were killed. Only the artisans survived, spared because the Mongols found them useful. The destruction was so severe that Nishapur remained barren for centuries. No trees grew, no grass sprouted. Even history enthusiasts rarely know the Tanguts, and there is one reason for that: Genghis Khan. This civilization felt the full force of his rage and was erased completely from history. The Tanguts were not an exceptional civilization. Their economy wasn't strong, their army wasn't legendary. But they lived quietly, and they had already submitted to Mongol rule. Their fatal mistake was refusing to send troops for one of Genghis's campaigns. This single decision sealed their fate. As Genghis marched against the Tanguts, he fell from his horse and became ill. He was already old, but he refused to turn back. The Tangut campaign became his final war. In 1226, the Mongols systematically destroyed Tangut cities. Their ruler died of fear as the Mongols approached. Genghis Khan died during the campaign, but he ordered in his final wishes that the Tanguts be eradicated completely. Their capital was looted. Their historical records were burned. Their written language and literature were wiped out. The few survivors were assimilated into the Mongols. A whole civilization vanished from the world. Yes, we've taken a rapid journey through the dark legacy of Genghis Khan. We've seen that one of history's greatest empires rose under one of its harshest, most ruthless, and most controversial leaders. Every step he took, every decision he made shaped not only the lands of his time, but even the world we live in today. A few wrong decisions, a few ambitious moves, a few bursts of rage, and the result? Cities erased from the map, peoples wiped out, a cultural mosaic that can never return. What we covered here is just a small selection from the darkest shelves of history. If you enjoy content like this, we'll continue exploring the unknown faces of history together. If you've watched up to this point, thank you sincerely. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you don't miss new videos. And write in the comments, which of Genghis Khan's actions surprised you the most? I'll be reading them one by one. In the next video, we'll keep opening the dusty pages of history. Take care, goodbye, and never lose your curiosity for the past.